everyone. Welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candice Marie. Thanks for joining me. I'll be your astrologer today. Back at it with yet another video, and well, in a couple days, we have Mercury turning retrograde. So I've got your spiritual survival guide in how to navigate the retrograde from the sign of Aries back into Pisces, what it means. We're going to take a look at the second chapter of this particular transit. If you guys like my videos, you want to see more of them, make sure you subscribe to the channel, click the bell button below, and give me a thumbs up if you like this video. Consider leaving me a comment and letting me know, where is this Mercury retrograde taking place in your chart? How has it been impacting you in the pre-shadow? And do you have Mercury in the sign of Aries or Pisces? I'd love to hear. Please don't forget to also consider sharing these videos. Any interactions like a thumbs up or a comment really helps the channel grow. So thank you guys so much for your support. I gotta say, one of my favorite things to do is the retrograde videos, primarily because there's so many other sequences and things that we can look at. We're gonna kind of break that down today. So some of this stuff might kind of feel like deja vu because we've been dealing with some of the Mercury aspects that will play out throughout the Mercury retrograde in March and April, the last few weeks. So you might have to put your thinking caps on, but that's okay. Obviously, it's going to be taking place in 2 signs, so that's going to be pretty significant as we see it move from the cardinal fire sign that's action-oriented back into Pisces, which is like, wait, what's going on? And it's going to take a little bit of time to unpack this until Mercury comes out of shadow. So essentially, we're going to do a deep dive today. We're going to talk about this Mercury retrograde, why it's so significant. We're going to talk about all the dates. So make sure you guys grab your charts and follow along so you can see what's kind of happening here. Hopefully this video is packed with lots of information to help you kind of navigate the cosmic drama, because there is a lot of other things that are triggered during this particular retrograde. We've got reactivations of a solar eclipse that we're going to see at the end of March in Aries. Venus is also retrograding side by side, and she will also be dipping back into Pisces. And we see some major conjunctions with Neptune, the North Node, as well as Saturn. You guys know I keep calling this period Carmageddon, and that's really what this is. So whether you're a newbie or an Astro Pro, hang out with me for a little bit. We're going to break it all down. I'll give you guys lots of effects of this retrograde, as well as some prep tips, and also what it means for the 12 rising signs. If you guys haven't already seen my March horoscopes, check it out because I do touch on this, and I'm going to focus a little bit more in April in the next horoscopes for where it's kind of going on with Pisces. I also put out a part 1 video where we took a look at Mercury's transit all the way up until about that 9 degrees where it's going to actually turn retrograde. Now, obviously, if you are ruled by Mercury, if you are a Gemini or Virgo rising, even though this is not happening in your signs, it does mean it impacts you because Mercury rules your chart. And if you happen to have any placements from 26 to about 29 degrees of Pisces, you are in the direct line of fire. Mercury will be retrograding back through those degrees. So if you have a sun, moon, rising, or personal planet there, maybe a node, it's going to impact you as well. And also my 0 to 9 or 10 degrees of Aries. You guys will be feeling this, that's where Mercury is going to retrograde the first half of this retrograde through those degrees. Now let's talk a little bit about the basics, all right? So there's a timeline whenever we're looking at retrogrades. We see the pre-shadow where stuff starts getting kind of kicked up. We see the actual retrograde where things slow down and we have to kind of turn within and reassess and organize. And then we see the post-shadow. So obviously Mercury is going to be turning retrograde on the 15th, and it's going to go retrograde until April 7th, 2025. So that is the retrograde period. Make sure I put these dates on the thumbnail. You guys will have it also in the description. So if you want to go back and reference any particular dates, click the description. You'll be able to see all of that there. So it's going to start in Aries. It's going to backtrack into Pisces, and the pre-shadow has actually been taking place since March the 1st. So look around. What's been happening for the better part of like the last 2 weeks? Some of the breakdowns and miscommunications and things are already kind of happening, and we will see a post-shadow, which is going to kick on the back end really all the way up until April 26th. So if you really want to be specific, okay, ideally, you know, Mercury retrograde stuff from March 15th through about April 7th, you know, not signing contracts, backing things up, you know, double, triple checking emails, contracts, negotiations. But if this were me, because I feel like this back end is going to be particularly bumpy, I would be waiting until after April 26th. I would wait until the end of April to be able to make any serious decisions, to commit to anything, because I feel like there is going to be a lot of fog, a lot of confusion, a lot of shocks and surprises that we're going to be kind of working through. So like I said, check your chart to see if there's any planets or angles within those particular degrees. And we know that Mercury retrograde is infamous for tech glitches, because Mercury represents taking things apart, electronics, communication, travel, and obviously delays, because the planet is slowing down. But it's in a sign that is favoring chaos, right? Aries is impulsive. It wants to get going. We might say things or sign things or buy things or plan things that we later regret. Obviously, rushed decisions lead to things backfiring, and it's really pushing us to really rethink our personal goals as well as our identity in this sign. Now, when it slips back into Pisces on the 29th of March, the vibe totally shifts. Mercury doesn't perform well here. This is a sign that deals with emotions and intuition. So think emotional confusion, foggy thinking, and also a call to revisit our intuition or our spiritual side. It's kind of like Aries is handing you a megaphone, and then we see Pisces where it kind of drowns in the ocean and it's not able to kind of get the message out. So I kind of see the pre-shadow, and also when Mercury starts its retrograde in Aries, as where we're taking action, and then those actions lead to a flood of emotions, and then we're kind of taken under the waves and we're trying to come back up for air. We might be feeling like we have lost the words, we've lost the plot, we don't necessarily know what we want anymore, and we feel a little confused. And obviously, selfish actions, anger, aggression can lead to isolation, separation, and being alone. So something to kind of think about. Now, I think the cosmic plot twist in the midst of all of this, and I've been really driving that point home, so I know a lot of you guys know this and you understand by now, but there's a lot of other things that are getting triggered around that 9-10 degrees Aries point, where we are actually going to see the Mercury retrograde begin. Part of it is, we're going to see that there is a solar eclipse that's going to be at 9 degrees of Aries. That's taking place on March 29th, 2025. The last solar eclipse in the series of Aries and Libra eclipses, now that the nodes have changed signs. This is conjunct the exact degree which Mercury is going to be retrograding at. So Mercury is kind of leading the way, right? We saw actually Venus hit the 9-10 degrees first. So Venus was there first. Mercury shows up, they both retrograde, and they're basically saying, hey, we're trying to communicate, we're trying to find a way to resolve, right? Retrograde, to rework, to reconsider business, love, money, and personal values, but we've hit a bit of a wall. And now maybe, acting too, brashly or selfishly, now we have to turn within and figure out what we're going to work out. So as we get to the end of March and we have this solar eclipse, we can, set a new intention. This is rare. This is very rare astrology. And honestly, it's quite intense. I remember looking at the astrology a couple of months ago being like, wow, March is the month where it all just pops off, and it's leading the way for Saturn and Neptune to make its way into Aries. I've been thinking a lot about this. I feel like in a nutshell, this is where it's asking us to reignite something, to learn how to love something, to learn how to take an initiative, and to really, really get, I think, deep on an inner level about what we want and value the most. This is where we learn to kind of pick ourselves up by the bootstraps and take action, save ourselves, work on ourselves. And it's only until we're able to turn within and kind of reflect on what we want and why we're acting the way we're acting, and how to walk the walk and talk the talk, that we can kind of get things moving. Eclipses, they're wild cards, right? So you guys are watching this, before we even have the lunar eclipse in Virgo. It's coming up very soon. So the next 2 weeks are going to be rather intense. Eclipses, they amplify the feelings of new beginnings and sudden shifts. And I think a solar eclipse in Aries happening while Mercury is retrograde at the same time, it'll still be in Aries actually, communication and plans are going to be tied to themes like selfhood, courage, action, and I think we're going to be hitting some unexpected turbulence. So Meanwhile, while all of that's going on, we've got Venus that's retrograding as well. When Venus started her retrograde, she started retrograde at the beginning of March on the 1st at 10 degrees of Aries. So it was conjunct this degree. And like I said, she was the first one to get there. So she was the one that was like, whoa, we're not really seeing peaceful situations. It's hard to kind of find peace and pleasure and security. She also, like Mercury, will be dipping back into Pisces. So on March 27th, Venus will return to Pisces. We will see her station direct around the 12th. And as we know, Venus retrograde is all about reassessing love, values, as well as creativity. But in Aries, she is bold, she's independent, right? She is fighting the good fight. And in Pisces, it's more romantic and sacrificial. I heard somebody say something today that was kind of like saying we're trading the Crusades for the Renaissance. And I was like, ding, it was like one of those Mercury moments where I was like, yes, that's what's happening. Aries are the Crusaders. They are the warriors, the fighters. They are on a mission. And Pisces is the Renaissance. It is the rebirth. It's the healing of the soul. So we're going through this together, all of us together, because it starts in Aries, which is the individual. Everything's retrograding back to Pisces, which is the collective. So we are needing to rethink our actions, our words, because words are powerful. They can hurt or they can heal during this particular transit. I would just say, there's this, if I were to explain it in a visual sense, like Mercury and Venus retrograde, they're ping-ponging between these two signs, and it's stirring up identity crisis as well as heartstrings at the same time. Now we're going to see when Mercury retrogrades back into Pisces, it's going to come into conjunction with Neptune at 29 degrees. The beginning of the end. The North Node, which is about the direction where we all need to go. And I keep telling people we need to lose our mind a little bit with Mercury conjunct the North Node in Pisces. We need to dream. We need to meditate. We need to really look for the signs, the symbols, the omens. We need to take time alone to reflect. And Saturn, the taskmaster, Lord of Karma. Now, if we zoom into late March and we look at all this happening, I feel like with Mercury retrograde back in Pisces and that conjunction to Neptune, which we will see several times, Mercury will conjunct Neptune in the pre-shadow, it's going to conjunct Neptune in the post-shadow, and then it's going to conjunct Neptune in the retrograde and then the post-shadow. And in the post-shadow, Neptune will be in Aries. So whatever has been confusing, whatever we have been believing, or maybe whatever kind of psyops are going on, or whatever BS is happening that's like fake illusions, we're now going to become more aware of where I think we've kind of lost ourselves in some kind of vague, foggy situation. So that conjunction then is going to lead into the conjunction with the North Node and Saturn, all hanging out in late degree Pisces. So Neptune is a fog that can blur your thoughts, making it hard to separate hard facts from reality. Then we're going to see with the North Node pulls us towards our destiny. So think like soul level lessons, surrender and creativity, significant dreams, signs, omens. And then Saturn, that is the reality check. So it's asking us then to structure our dreams or face the consequences of escapism. Karmageddon. The North Node is super karmic because it's what we're meant to do. I guess I would say it's even more dharmic because it's what we're here to achieve, at least collectively. And then Saturn is just kind of like, here's the line, it's that cosmic kind of reality check. It feels like a gut check also, and that there is something where it's like mentally we're kind of hitting a wall. Watch what's going on in the world. Mercury is journalists. It is analytics. It's going to be about jobs. It's also going to be connected to health. It's connected to documents and words and anything that's like written. So we're going to see lots of like, here's the documents. And then we, go through them, or we read the fine print, or we reassess the agreement. And then we're like, wait a second, this is not all here. Sound familiar? This is not all the facts. There's a bunch of stuff missing. Where did it go, Pisces, right? Oop, poof, it vanished. And I think that a lot of us are going to really be feeling the heat when it comes to consequences for not asking questions, for not clarifying, for overlooking, for lying, deceiving, hiding. Nobody gets a pass with this transit because Saturn is the collective and the North Node really represents everybody. So this pile up of all of the stuff going on in the Pisces soup It's confusing, but it's also inspiring, because when things don't make sense, when we can't make sense of things, people are going to be turning to self-reflection. They're going to be turning to religious or spiritual practices. They're going to be returning to faith. They're going to be returning to meditate. They're going to be looking up their dreams. I keep telling you guys, but my dreams are crazy town. I don't know about you guys. Let me know if you've had some crazy dreams, but they've been super active for me. And I feel like, you know, this is meant to be happening all at once. And that's how it's going to feel also, like planets going into Aries and then retrograding into Pisces. It's going to be like this slow release of information, or this slow sense of awareness. And then it's going to hit all at once. And that all at once will be happening in April. So really, I think it's the universe's way of telling us, slow down, feel it, integrate, figure out what's real. And I feel like with Venus joining in here, conjuncting around Neptune at the same time it goes direct, we're going to see some really serious dreamy or delusional vibes in relationships. So it's also going to be about relationships. What's fact? What's fantasy? Where are we getting scammed? Where are we getting catfished? Where are we seeing that maybe something may be an illusion? And also learning to, I think, be a little bit more compassionate, caring, sensitive, forgiving. I've used the example, Aries wants war, right? Pisces wants peace. So we're going to see that there's a lot of inflamed things going on in March. We're going to have the opportunity to kind of calm it down, find peace, and then planets are going to be moving back into Aries. And we're going to see with that Saturn, you know, coming into Aries soon, with Mercury, which will conjunct Neptune in Aries. I think for a lot of us, it's whether or not we're going to stop fighting all of these little battles with ourselves. It's learning to better manage our emotions, learning to better manage our anger, our frustration, our hostility, not keeping it internalized, where it can materialize as, like, you know, health issues. So what do you guys need to do to prepare? What do you need to watch for? I think to navigate and survive this cosmic roller coaster, I would double check everything, okay? And personally, this is just me. I'm a very skeptical person. Even when it comes to astrological predictions, psychic readings, tarot readings, I feel like everybody has to be a skeptic. You have to be, because we don't really know what is true or false. That's why I love astrology. That's why I love putting this stuff out early for you guys, talking about what's going to happen and then watching it unfold, because in a way, kind of interpreting the stars and all of the aspects and what it's saying is kind of like a puzzle. We're putting it together and we're kind of seeing, okay, here's where the pieces kind of come together, and this is what it should look like when it's complete. So I love it. It keeps my Scorpio brain occupied 24/7. Double check everything. You know, Aries is impulsive, and I think that Pisces is fuzzy, and that means that we can see some mistakes that can happen. If we're rushing through something, we can catch the mistakes when it's in Pisces. Read the fine print, back up your tech, your computers, send stuff to the cloud, pause before hitting send, maybe put off any important things that you're launching or signing until the end of April. Delay big moves. That's something else that I would say with Mercury retrograde. I think because it's conjunct the eclipse and the Venus retrograde, it's stirring up love and money stuff. And I would hold off on big launches, contracts, and relationship ultimatums until we get to the second half of April. Now lean into reflection. Obviously, that's what we're supposed to be doing, because it's going to station direct in Pisces. And we can use this time basically while it's retrograding through Aries to ask ourselves why, right? What are our passions and goals? And then when it gets into Pisces, we can reconnect with our intuition via journaling, meditation, art, or just a little bit more rest. Now watch for illusions. There will be a lot of them. We are going to see with Neptune and the North Node in Pisces, it will be clouding judgment. We'll see conspiracy. We're going to see scandals. We're going to see things that people are going to go, there's no way that's true. And then we're going to have to work it out through the retrograde. So if something feels too good to be true in love, in money, you know, or even in your dreams, it just might be. Saturn is going to reveal the truth later. And trust me when I tell you, Saturn has our back. I'm going to praise Saturn on this one, because I feel like Saturn is going to be revealing to all of us what is not real, what we cannot trust, what is actually clouding us, what's disconnecting us from spirit, where maybe doubt is coming in, or, you know, grief, or isolation or depression. And we can kind of, you know, move through some of those barriers and some of those blockages. And then finally, it's in Pisces. So like we have to rest up, right? And retrogrades are to return, to reevaluate, to reassess. In order to do that, we have to be able to kind of slow down. We have to relax. So I feel like, yes, eclipses are super draining. We see so many things happening at one time. You pair that with, Mercury and Venus's retrograde chaos. I feel like self-care has to be a non-negotiable during this time. Pisces rules the bedroom. It is about rest. It's also about traveling. It's about spirituality, religion, meditation, going to spas, right? Or just simply sleeping in. So take naps, stay hydrated. Grounding rituals are going to be very important because there is going to be a lot of haste in Aries, and there is going to be also, I think, a lot of just feeling energetically zapped when it's in Pisces. And we're not going to be as great with our boundaries until we see that Saturn fully moves into Aries. Now, I want to show you guys the chart dates that we're going to review. I just want to remind you that now that the South Node is in Virgo, Mercury transits, right? Mercury retrograde, Mercury Cazimi, Mercury conjunct outer planets, or the North Node packs a little bit of a punch. So, it's kind of like, it's a little bit polar opposite because we will see Mercury conjunct the North Node, which in astrology means fateful conversations, communications, and P.S. the North Node amplifies things, especially if it's ruled by Jupiter. So we're going to see that the South Node ruler, Mercury, will be dancing all through these two signs. And the South Node in Virgo is about dismantling, releasing, changing, letting go of things like the military, jobs, job numbers, health systems, anything that is connected to the service industry. So think like bars, hotels, restaurants, things that are also connected to travel can be kind of coming up, and also health of pets. Systems is also Virgo. So we're going to hear about this whole dismantling of some of these things and how it's playing out through this retrograde. The South Node is also where we get stuck. It's the past. And sometimes, when we're dealing with the South Node ruler, the past comes back. It doesn't even have to be retrograde for you to be dealing with that. So there's a lot of like revealing to ourselves throughout this transit. Where have I been getting in my own way? Pisces, where have I been my own worst enemy? Where has there been hidden enemies? Where are there karmic blockages? Where are there some things going on in the ethers with the gods or goddesses or a higher power that's either blocking us from certain things for our highest good, or where are things being removed? Where is the truth being revealed to you? Something that I have really noticed over the Saturn and Pisces transit, and it's really peaked up the last 2 or 3 months, is I've had so many clients that have said to me, I'm spiritual, I'm not very religious. I maybe came from a religious background. Maybe I went to Catholic or Christian school. Maybe I went to temple when I was a kid. But, I've never really, in recent years, had a really religious kind of practice. But I believe in God or a higher power. And I've heard so many people over the last 2 months saying, I just sat in meditation and I just said, to myself or to God or a higher power, if this is meant for me, reveal it to me. If this person is meant to be with me, reveal that to me. If this job is meant to leave my life, if this person, this situation, reveal to me what I'm supposed to see. And then they tell me that they have these jaw-dropping moments where there is a really significant sign. There are moments where there is a really significant dream, or, symbols or messages, or just things strangers will even say to them. And they're like, there is no way that was a coincidence. It's like so freaky to me. Like I saw one of them the other day. It was funny. I was on social media, and Machine Gun Kelly was talking about how he's in his private recording studio, and he's making his new album, and he was having like a huddle with his team, and they were going through the music, and he was like, I just don't know if this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Is this what my music is supposed to sound like? Is it too different? And he was doubting the whole process, and somebody like pulled up their phone and they were like, dude, Bob Dylan just posted you like having like an acoustic session, just like sitting on a stage in like a small like bookstore or something, just like rapping. Like Bob Dylan, two completely different like types of music here, and they could not be more polar opposite other than being like major contrarians. Anyway, but I found that to be really interesting, and I was like, How cool is it to like be doubting something and then see that confirmation from somebody who is like such a music icon? And it was just mind blowing. And I was like, there's no way this is real. And then I went and I saw it and I was like, that's kind of cool. So anyway, you might be noticing that you're having these moments where you're doubting things, and you know, you might just go, okay, somebody's got to kind of tell me, does this have to stay or does this have to go? Or what direction or what decision do I make? Try it. Try it during this period. Watch what happens. Watch what messages come through. Now, because Mercury is connected to the South Node, when we're looking at Mercury when it's in, Pisces, we're going to be looking at Jupiter being the dispositor. Okay, Jupiter is truth. It's about law. It's about integrity. It's also about growth. It's about abundance of communication, of seeing two sides of a situation. It also expands things, obviously in media and in learning and in traveling and documents and laws. It's not happy in this sign. It's a little bit too frazzled. It's a little bit, I think, distracted. And it still is going to make things bigger. So there's going to be more talk about uncovering through the retrograde. What did the media say? What was published? What was the law? What did we say in the past? How is it coming back up now? This could be social media. This could also mean that there is a huge emphasis on documents. Guys, documents is Gemini. So reviewing documents, reviewing folders, reviewing paperwork, contracts, things that we have signed. So it's really going to have a getcha moment for people who are like not reading the fine print and they, accept a, like a layoff, proposal where they're like, okay, we'll give you an early like benefits package. And if you're willing to leave, we'll give you X, Y, and Z. People are like, oh yeah, I'll take that. And they sign it. And then they realize in the fine print, it's not necessarily what was being negotiated. It's completely different. And you didn't look through it, but you signed it, that kind of stuff. We're also going to see people who I think are going to have issues revolving around actual documents going missing. It could also be about like issues with cars and issues with transportation, and also like language barrier issues, because Gemini's language and Pisces is foreign. So we could see some things where like videos are being put out where it's being translated incorrectly, people who are interpreting things the wrong way, people who are editing videos or text or documents that are forged. This is going to be a really big theme. Okay, so watch out for the scams. And then when we have Mercury in Aries, it's going to be ruled by its dispositor Mars, which now is direct. Okay, it is no longer retrograde, so that way we can move forward with our passive aggressiveness. Mars in Cancer has been a lot about domestic, security, home and family stuff, moves, maybe some tiffs that we're having with roommates or people that we live with, dealing with the frustration emotionally from the past. Mars is a planet that is associated with war and conflict. So there's going to be a lot of reevaluating, who are we at odds with? Where have we had problems with people in the family? What has happened in regards to homeland security? And Mars is also connected to generals. It's connected to kind of like leaders as well. So we're going to be seeing that we're still rehashing out some of the past. And so I think to have like, Venus in a sign that's associated with Mars, Mars in a sign that's associated with the moon, there's going to be a lot of going back and forth and people being kind of agitated about the past, and they're really consumed with what they have to fight for, that they have to kind of make a point or drive a point home. And it can create a lot of turmoil, especially like in the home space. So you just want to watch out for that. Now, like I said, the pre-shadow began on March 1st. So I'm going to take you guys back in time and we're going to look at that. And a lot of these aspects you're going to see are going to play out several times, by the way. Even some of the aspects like the Mercury-Saturn conjunction, which you will see when it stations, was happening right around here. So March 26th was when Mercury conjunct Saturn. And then Mercury came into conjunction with the North Node on the 1st. And this is when the pre-shadow began. So think back to what's happened for the last 2 weeks. What was confusing, not well understood, what was manipulated, what was hidden. The moon was there. I mean, it was like, ugh, I hate when the moon goes through Pisces and we see this like pile up of planets, because it's like everybody acts crazy. And yes, there's a lot of like crazy stuff going on in the world and nobody really knows what's true or false. So as Mercury entered this pre-shadow phase, and it started at this degree, it was marking the beginning of the cycle with the themes that are up and coming during this retrograde that we're starting to kind of subtly emerge. Confusion, lack of direction, mental health issues, isolation, secrets, things that are hidden. And that's all connected back to Mercury themes, documents, traveling, and media, health, organizations, I think, maybe even like networks, things connecting to jobs. And a lot of this is going to be about the military, okay? And I said this in my Venus retrograde webinar. I'll give myself like a pat on the back for this one. I was like, Mercury retrograde with Venus at an 8 in Aries, they're going to conjunct. Even before Mercury goes retrograde, I was like, we're going to see major rollbacks happening in the military. I was like, I don't know if it's going to be about, laying people off. I don't know if it was going to be this back and forth revolving around gender issues and people who are transgender, because the 8s deal with that. It's about changes to the genitals. It's Scorpio degree. And I was like, something is going to happen here, and it's going to be connected also to like health and defining men from women. Regardless of where you stand on the situation, this is just the astrology, and that actually has happened. Trump went back and forth with whoever's in charge of the military, and he basically decided, yeah, anybody who has gone through sex reassignment surgery or has done hormonal therapy, or anybody who has transitioned now is basically being disqualified from the military. It happened. So I'm thinking that part of this retrograde is going to be kind of tying some health and habit practices, medical related things to soldiers. And Virgo is very much about people in uniform, as is Capricorn, and Aries is military. So it's all kind of tied together because we're seeing the conjunction to Saturn, planets in Aries, and Mercury is connected to the South Node. But will there be more? Will we see more jobs of people who are in uniform in general that are maybe changing jobs or, losing jobs? Maybe, we'll see. Now, the next phase was when Mercury eventually starts its retrograde. So that's not going to be until the 15th. Okay. And something to kind of note is that the day before Mercury turns retrograde, we have a lunar eclipse in Virgo on the 14th. Okay, has not happened yet. How are you guys feeling? Take a temperature check. It's coming in. This is an eclipse that was about clearing something out, right? Abruptly, suddenly, unexpectedly. It's at a 23. And the ruler is Mercury, which is stationing. It's getting ready to turn retrograde. So big things happen during eclipses that are shocking and surprising. This is a lunar eclipse, so it's emotional. The ruler, Mercury, is getting ready to go retrograde, conjunct Venus retrograde. Big news about job numbers, job reports, and I think just major changes with health and health systems. So it's already coming online right before we have the Mercury retrograde. All right, then on the 15th, Mercury turns retrograde. It's turning retrograde at 9 degrees. So this is the degree that's conjunct the solar eclipse at the end of the month. This is the degree also that Venus, or conjunct the degree that Venus turned retrograde. So this is why I keep saying that 9-10 degrees is so significant. They're all kind of mirroring the same thing. So then on the 15th, Mercury turns retrograde. This is basically beginning in Aries. It's initiating that period where there will be communication issues. We will see delays. We're going to see a need for reflection, particularly in the area of Aries in our chart. So it's going to be about action, identity, being bold, being brave, about passion. And I think that this is a force to be reckoned with. This is going to be something that I think is going to be a real turning point for a lot of people. Now, then we're going to see some other things happening. As you guys know, at some point during the Mercury retrograde, we have the Mercury Cazimi, and this is right after a Venus Cazimi. So we have like a Venus Cazimi that's going to happen here, where the Venus conjuncts the Sun at 2 Aries, which is a money degree. And then we're going to have Mercury conjunct the Sun, and this is going to be the Mercury Cazimi, which looks like it's going to be at 4 degrees. That Cazimi will be on the 24th of March. Now, this is the halfway point through the Mercury retrograde. I have always looked at this as this is when Mercury is purified, it's cleansed. The Sun is exalted in Aries, so it's got a little bit extra oomph. And I feel like the conjunction to Mercury at a 4 is where we are intellectually realizing and recognizing, hey, this thing, it's not cutting it. It's not working. You know, we gotta make this necessary change. I gotta quit the habit. I gotta let it go. I gotta turn within. And 4s are more emotional, and it's about home, family, and the past. This is also where individuals, Aries, become aware of what hasn't been working. So shocking news relating to health and jobs, you betcha, that is definitely going to happen. Now the Sabian symbol would be the 5 degrees of Aries because it's 4 and change, so we round up. And the Sabian symbol is a triangle with wings. Okay, so for me, I think connecting this to the Mercury Cazimi, you know, we see this beautiful image of, you know, ambition finding its wings. And I think during this retrograde, it's like this is the cosmic checkpoint. Are your plans soaring? You know, do they need to be tweaked a little bit? Do we need to kind of change some things before we have liftoff? Great day to check in and assess what you're reworking in the area of Aries in your chart. I think that, you know, with the Pisces twist, because it's going back into Pisces, it's about acting boldly, but listening to our inner compass, and emotions kind of being a gauge actually for like, hey, you know, like, how am I feeling? Like, let's do a self check-in. Like, how am I feeling about this new thing? Am I excited? Am I worried? Am I anxious? Am I not organized? And this would be the day to do that. Woof, look at this. We got the moon conjunct Pluto that's going to sextile all of this. So there's definitely some kind of like reckoning that's happening collectively. And so much of the Mercury Venus retrograde in Aries is about individuals realizing what they value. Are they getting the most bang for their buck? You know, are they investing in themselves enough? How are they doing with their finances and their expenses? And also, where are we putting our money, and is it still valuable? And I'm going to hold true to this one. I've said this several times. I genuinely believe this is when all the Fort Knox stuff is going to go down, because the sun is the king. The sun is also gold. This is about a military compound, Aries. And I think this is going to be about going back and checking in and reassessing, is the gold still there? Now, obviously, as many of you guys know, we're no longer on the gold standard. We have dollar bills, and we're told that we should just trust that because we're America. And somehow that's influenced the money all over the world. But there's this complete reassessment that's going on with the Venus retrograde of how people view money. And I think that you can't look at a retrograde in Aries and say, oh, people aren't going to get angry about something. You're going to get angry about something. It's going to happen. Aries energy is known for just kind of popping off. And I think when people start to kind of realize where our money has been going globally, whether or not we feel like we are burdened by some of the impacts of war, how this is impacting us psychologically and emotionally, where it's also tearing people apart and creating division, right? Chaos and war, Aries. And also a lot of people kind of going like, you know, do I feel like my money still maintains its value? You know, what do I have? How does this impact me? Guys, mid-March into the end of March is going to be a firestorm. We are going to see some crazy stuff. We've already seen some like real dips in the market the last like week or two. And obviously like crypto has kind of gone off a cliff. And that's expected during the retrogrades. When we see Mercury and Venus retrograde at the same time, that's a major reassessment of money, and a lot of things are kind of going back and forth. So individuals start to kind of realize, wait, how much is this affecting me? How much money have I paid into taxes? You know, the stock market dips, how did that impact my 401k? What do I have? What do I need? And so this is going to be a big one. Around the 24th is when we're going to start to see the wheels kind of turn. Now, Mercury will re-enter into Pisces. And something to think about is like Mercury as well as Venus, they're retrograding over the 0 degree Aries point. And that's a very potent point because this is world access. This is where we see major world events happen. I've thought for a long time that the Venus retrograde could bring peace, that it could be the cease of wars. I'm still optimistic that that's possible. But I think that with Venus going retrograde back, you know, maybe that's going to be a turning point in regards to some kind of global conflict. And then we will see Mercury reemerge into 0 degrees with the moon. Okay, so I'm looking at March 28th. Mercury at 0 degrees, here's the moon. You know, that's going to be another big event, all hosted by Mars. Mars is at 22. It's a military degree. It's a Capricorn degree, which is about, you know, movement, generals, long-term themes, government-related matters. And that's as we're coming into the solar eclipse. So when the solar eclipse happens at 9 degrees of Aries, we are actually going to see that Mercury is retrograde. It's behind the sun. It's combust, so it's within 10 degrees. And obviously it's heading back into Pisces, so it's got something it needs to resolve or it needs to deal with. So Mercury's then back in Pisces. We're going to see that on the 29th. Let me scroll back a little bit here. And let's see. Actually, it looks like it's going to happen. Yeah, it's going to happen on the 29th. So it hits 29 degrees of Pisces. So what does it do? It conjuncts Neptune, also at 29 degrees. As an astrologer, this is like such scary astrology. And I like try to put on a good game face for you guys and be like, it's going to be great. But I'm like, like there is something like there's something that is completely melting down, completely breaking down. The good news is we're all in it together, right? So, you know, if the ship's going down, there's not a single person this is not going to impact. And I hope for you guys, it's more about you going, you know what, whatever's going to happen is going to happen. I just have to find a way to be able to kind of keep my sanity and go into dreamy Zen Pisces land. You know, I hope you guys are praying. I hope you guys are going to church. I hope you guys are meditating. I hope you guys are working with whatever higher power you believe in, because literally that's the only way to get through this time. There's no other way. Music, meditation, you know, vibration, sound bowls, these are all kind of Pisces things. But this is scary to me. Seeing Mercury retrograde at 29 degrees of Pisces conjunct Neptune, because this is like when things get extra crazy. So this is what we saw right before Mercury came into Aries. So that was right around what, the 28th of February-ish, right around there, the beginning of March. So this is where there's more kind of confusion because it's moving backwards. It's back in Pisces, a sign that's more emotional, not really logical. And then it's introspective, imaginative, and it's kind of in emotional territory. I think the positive is that the ruler of all of this stuff, Jupiter, is direct. It's at a Gemini degree, so it's about communication and gaining clarity. It can be about finding peace, harmony, forgiving, and renewal. But it's conjunct Neptune, so there's still a lot of deception. And it's conjunct Venus, which is about money and values. And Venus is the ruler of Uranus, so market destabilization much. And then we're going to see Mercury continue its retrograde. As it goes retrograde, before it goes direct, it's following Venus. So do you see this? It's following Venus. All right. Now Neptune is in Aries. And then we're going to see it conjunct the North Node at 27 degrees. That's going to be around April 3rd. So this is the second time that we've seen a conjunction between Mercury and the North Node, which literally means, you know, dreams, intuition, you know, faith and philosophy, and needing to kind of listen to our gut. And then we're going to see on the 7th, okay, it's going to station direct. And when it stations direct on the 7th, it's going to station at 26 degrees, which is a Taurus degree. It's a money degree. These are not exact. We've got 26, 25, 25, but pretty damn close. 27 to 25 degrees. Venus is reevaluating love, money, relationships. Saturn is karma, lord of boundaries and responsibility and maturity. Mercury, the mind. Guys, there's a lot of people going to prison. There's a lot of people going to prison for financial crimes, for abuse. This is a sign that deals with, you know, people who have been victims. I think that the fact that Venus is about to go direct is going to be closer to, I think, the 12th or so. But Venus is basically at the degree which she will station and go direct at. This is very significant. We saw last year in the fall, we had that eclipse in Pisces that was around 23 degrees. So look at this. This is all conjunct that. So there's stuff that was starting to kind of unravel or kind of, you know, come out then that now we're going to like be unpacking and going, okay, well, now we have the defined decision, situation, documents, conversation. We have the videos, we have the footage, we have the pictures, right? Videos and pictures are Pisces. And now we can make a much more solid decision. Now, when Mercury stations direct, that means the retrograde's over. So, you know, at this degree, it's basically signaling a turning point where we've been reassessing and now we can move forward with some of our adjustments. Here's the problem. The problem is it's going to sit here for a couple days and it's not really going to move. So even though it's direct, it's still in a sign it doesn't fare well in. And it's going to cross the North Node, where we're still kind of doing those gut checks in mid-April. And then Venus goes direct at 24. And then we will see Mercury come back into Aries again on the 16th. But this time, unlike the other two passes where Mercury was conjunct Neptune, where we felt a little lost or delusional, now Mercury is conjunct Neptune in Aries. So what does that mean? Mars is the dispositor again. We'll look at Mars. It's at 29 degrees of Cancer. That is a critical turning point, especially when it comes to homeland security, people feeling like they need home defense, self-defense. The sun is coming in to square that, where individuals are getting agitated, angry, or they're kind of pissed off about stuff, and pushing for some kind of move or movement. And, you know, it doesn't matter what sign it's in. Like Mercury conjunct Neptune, you're either going to be acting and speaking like you're the victim, or you're going to be speaking inspirationally to people. You're going to be reading religious or spiritual texts, or you're going to be focusing on finding your voice. Certainly Mercury Neptune people, I find they have beautiful singing voices, or like they can just like write in a way that's just so picturesque. You can just visualize everything that they're telling you in a book. But this is where people are going to be like, I'm speaking out, and I've been speaking out and nobody's been listening. So now I'm taking matters in my own hands. And if you guys remember, throughout this Mars retrograde cycle, in the last several months, we saw Mars oppose Pluto several times, right? Actually, at the beginning of November, when we had the US election, Mars was opposing Pluto in Cancer and Capricorn. And then Pluto moved. So we still have to see another Mars-Pluto opposition. So this is within about 3 or 4 degrees. So it's bringing up the pressure that was happening in November, the pressure that was happening in late December, early January. Now it's coming in for the final pass. So can you trust that inner voice, right? Is it possible? Are you believing the things you're telling yourself? Have you realized you've been deceived? Have you been lying to yourself? This is also, Pisces is about drugs and pharmaceuticals, okay? RFK came out this week and said he's doing a full investigation into the side effects of SSRIs. Not a doctor, can't give you recommendations, but I think it's interesting that individuals are Aries and psychological effects is Pisces, and we're going to be hearing about just how much that's impacting people. I think of Venus being sexual health, reproductive health. I also think of it being connected to women or mothers. I think of Mars and Aries being about men and sexual health, testosterone, men in the military. I think about Aries and the connection to younger people and what people have been giving their kids, or what kids are eating, what they're consuming, everything. What Neptune can be what's in the water. Saturn in Pisces could be what's being pushed by psychologists or by hospitals, or what's being given to people. And I think this whole process has been literally to like shake people and wake people up and make them realize like you're going to constantly be depressed and drugged and under an influence or isolated or afraid. And if you want to stay in that self-created prison, have at it. But other people are going to wake up and they're going to go, I'm not staying here. I'm not going to be sick anymore. I'm not going to feel like a victim anymore. This has happened. Now we're going to do something about it. And what's cool is that this is where Neptune and Aries is like, okay, you know, I have a decision to make. Am I going to pull myself? Am I going to wake myself out of this dream? And it's fever dreams, guys, literally, in this sign. So Mercury meets with Neptune. Be careful what lies you're telling yourself, or pay attention to where you're being disillusioned. Then we're going to see Mercury continue to move forward. As of the 26th, it will come out of the shadow, but with a bang. It comes out of shadow at 9 and the moon is going to be there. So it's coming out of shadow and it's hitting the solar eclipse degree that will happen at the end of March. Look at this. There's too many. Okay, so it comes out of shadow. It's ruled by Mars. The moon is ruled by Mars. Where is Mars? Mars is in opposition to Pluto at a 3. It's an information war. That's what this is. It's literally an information war. You know, I keep asking myself, and I've been saying this to my husband, I was like, when is like the media finally going to tell the truth? Like, it's going to be like a game of chicken. Like, are they going to go under, or are they finally going to have to like come clean and admit that, you know, there's been a whole lot of propaganda going on for decades, and that people have bought into it and believed it. And the state of the world and the state of the countries that we live in particular here in America is as a result of what we've become accustomed to watching, what we've been hearing, what we should be afraid of, boasting up numbers about airplane crashes, about horrific events, scaring people into not going out. And I almost think of it almost like, are we going to be like these shelter animals? Like, have you ever guys seen like dogs that have been in a shelter their whole life, or maybe they've been unfortunately abused or mistreated, or they've spent their whole life in a cage, and then you let them out, right? I'm a huge beagle lover. I've always had beagles, and I was somebody who's always been big with donating to the Beagle Freedom Project. And something that really moved me was I saw they took all these dogs that had been in lab cages their entire life. They had been tested on. They had never been outside. They hadn't seen the sun. They hadn't played with other dogs, hadn't seen grass. And they take all these dogs and they let them out. And the dogs don't know what to do. They don't know how to come out of their cage. They're afraid. They're kind of scared. And they slowly walk out and they look around, and it takes them a little bit to realize that they're free. That's what's happening. That's literally what's happening in April. People are going to realize, oh my God, we're free, right? But not everybody is going to see that freedom. Not everybody is going to perceive it in the same way. They're actually going to kind of fight against it, or they're going to be agitated, or they're going to be angry, or they're going to deny to themselves what is really happening. And a lot of this, because Mars in opposition to Pluto, is about a power struggle between young, powerful, courageous leaders, young people, young men. It's also going to be about children, fighting to protect children. This is also going to be more of the drama about the stuff that's going on with the industry in Hollywood. And the truth is going to set us free. If there's one thing I know about Jupiter transits, and like, yeah, it's been not so great thus far in Gemini, maybe for Gemini risings, but the truth is going to prevail. That's what's going to end up happening. And truth is a dangerous thing, but we're going to learn that really quick with Uranus going into Gemini in this next year, I think. The degrees don't lie. Watch. I mean, I would wait until the end of the shadow period. I would wait till after the 26th. Specifically, especially knowing that Venus is directly connected to conflict and war, and then peace and revealing secrets, and Venus is connecting to Uranus. If you guys have been watching what has happened the last couple of weeks with Zelensky and Trump, there was supposed to be a mineral deal. Zelensky said, okay, we'll sign this deal. We're going to give you guys precious minerals to pay back the United States for the money that was loaned. And he was supposed to go and have like this peace deal. And then there was like this spat, and then there was no deal. There was no peace deal. There was nothing. And so I am filming this, just so you guys know, just for proof. I'm filming this on the 28th of February. So you guys are going to see this for a little bit. But this is happening right around the time that I'm filming this. And I'm looking at this like, is this going to be a return to peace? And there is going to be a peace deal? Is there going to be a decision to go ahead and say, yeah, we will give you guys the resources so we can actually move along? Or is this going to be full-blown exposure of things where there has been cover-ups, basically, and now blowing the lid off of that? I'm going to tell you right now, his chart is cooked. I know you guys aren't asking, but I've said this for a while because he's got planets that are at the early degrees of Aquarius and Leo. This might be a really big turning point for him, good or bad, as will the Mercury retrograde over the summer. But, it's not looking so good for somebody going back and forth on their word, because it's at a 3. And this is all squaring the sun, by the way. So this is also a pretty significant turning point. Going to be wild to see, but certainly with Mars being challenged by the sun and also Pluto, it's all going to come down to money, resources, and possessions. Now, this is also reactivating that solar eclipse. So you'll see what's happening, or what's been unfolding basically since the end of March. My God, this is just crazy astrology. It's not often that I'm just kind of like dumbfounded, but even though I keep talking about it, I'm creating all these separate videos on it. It's all really kind of saying the same thing. And I think the positive side of all of this is the preparation period for what eventually will be Saturn coming into Aries. And when Saturn shows up in May, it's going to be going through, oh, that's the retrograde. Sorry, guys. Let's see, ingress. When Saturn shows up in May, then it's going to be like, okay, now there is this new thing that we're having to kind of commit to, right? Now we have to commit to something new. Oh, I'm all over the place. What am I doing? There we go, Aries. Now we have to commit to something new. There is a new responsibility, right? And I keep thinking about like Saturn and Neptune and Aries is like there's this flame that we have to worship. We're worshiping this new flame, or we're bringing the flame back. We're reigniting the flame. And maybe that's what this process in the spring is about with Mercury and Venus. We're kind of getting more in touch with what's going to make us feel alive, what we're going to be passionate about. And then we're going to commit to that. And with Saturn and Neptune and Aries, it's going to be our personal religious or spiritual practice. And I think a lot of this is getting back to realizing that our body is a temple. And so much of what's changing about our thoughts and what we're consuming and what we love and all that stuff is to set a new standard for how we're going to be treating ourselves, and also for holding ourselves accountable for being the change that we want to see in the world. So thank you for coming to my TED Talk. I'll get off my soapbox now. I'm just so excited to see that these transits finally happen because I feel like, you know, my Aries moon has been waiting so very long, so very long for this to happen. I've been waiting. All right, so let's go to the Mercury retrograde because I'm all over the place. All right, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys where this Mercury retrograde is taking place for the 12 rising signs. Now, if you guys caught the first video, I was talking about how it started in Aries and what you need to be thinking about in Aries. Great, but now it's going back into Pisces. So I'm going to put a little bit more emphasis on where you've been, but let's talk about where we're going, okay? I'm a Western whole sign astrology reader. That's the practice that I use. The retrograde will be from 9 degrees of Aries all the way back to about 26 degrees of Pisces. So if you have anything, let's say 24 of Pisces to 11 degrees of Aries, you're in the line of fire. My Gemini and my Virgo risings, your chart rulers on the move, Aries and Pisces, it's going through your signs. But the truth is that when it retrogrades back and it hits Saturn and the North Node and Neptune, it's really for everybody. So you're going to want to look at both the area of Aries as well as the area of Pisces. Keep in mind that Mercury rules Gemini and Virgo. So there's some themes connecting to the South Node in Virgo that you're letting go. Maybe what you're learning, how you're learning to better communicate with Jupiter and Gemini in the process. All right, so use Placidus as well if you guys need to. You might need to listen to more than one rising sign. This is going to be for Aries and Aries rising. What's up, Aries? All right, so let's talk a little bit about what you've had going on. So if we kind of look back at what's been happening for the last month or so, you saw Mercury move through Pisces and then into your sign. So the retrograde is actually starting in your first house of self. Okay, there's been a lot of rethinking yourself, reevaluating yourself, your appearance, all of that stuff. But Mercury is now going to retrograde back to your 12th house. And this basically means that the second leg of this particular transit is all about your subconscious. It's all about rethinking how you present yourself to the world. It's about watching for impulsive me first kind of tendencies. Those moments can backfire, unfortunately. When it's back in Pisces, you know, old fears or dreams can definitely bubble up. And I would recommend, you know, as a tip, journal the process, write about it. Don't force clarity, meditate, rest, and sleep. I think a lot of this is about better mental health practices. I think it's also about channeling it into a spiritual practice. It maybe is about going to spas and saunas. Maybe it's about doing some breathwork exercises, some meditation. And really coming to terms with there is an old version of you that is getting wrapped up. It's dying off. As planets are in the 12th house coming into your first, you're moving from your cocoon phase to your butterfly phase, right? And you can't have, butterfly conversations with caterpillar people, right? If there are people who are afraid to spread their wings and fly, you might find that it's difficult to communicate with them and to kind of level with them. And you might feel like a lot of this is about kind of going your own way and embracing your authenticity. Good luck, Aries. We've got Taurus and Taurus rising. You guys are going to be experiencing this Mercury retrograde, which will be going from Aries in your 12th house back into Pisces in your 11th house. Taurus, well, the 12th house is hidden. It's subconscious. Maybe things have been kind of stirring up a little bit, some crazy dreams, some hidden stuff. And then Mercury will slide back into your 11th house. And this is the house of friends. This is goals. This is networks. I expect maybe there could be some mental fog or some weird dreams early on when it's in Aries, or some internal frustrations. And, then you're going to be reconnecting with friends and other people. Yes, there can be reunions, but there can also be miscommunications with your crew. So double check group plans, avoid ghosting or being ghosted. Focus on being creative, having fun, and being a part of a community or a collective that makes you feel valued. Good luck, Taurus. We've got Gemini and Gemini rising. What's up, Gemini? You'll be experiencing Mercury turning retrograde. It's going to go from Aries back into Pisces. So it's going from your 11th to your 10th. You are Mercury as it rules your chart. And it's also associated with your 4th house of home and family. For Gemini, obviously kicking off in your 11th house is pretty social. It's about reconnecting with friends and community. And then it's moving into your 10th house of career. So I anticipate a lot of you guys are not only reevaluating your friendships or maybe your goals, but maybe there is this sense of feeling like you need to kind of rile up the troops. Maybe you're working with a new team. Maybe you are calling a friend to kind of help you with a work matter, because it's going to land in your career house when it goes direct. So you can see that there can definitely be some social media kind of conflicts. There can also be rethinking something about your audience if you're like a content creator or if you present for a living. Yes, there could be some friend drama that can kind of trip you up, but as it goes back into the 10th house, it's about being like, how can I manage this? How can I be a leader? And some of you guys may experience a work change or a work delay, or maybe you're just reworking something about your reputation. I would really recommend during this period, pause big career moves, refine your goals, and figure out who your people are, who's going to support you as you're kind of navigating making these necessary changes in your professional life. Good luck. For Cancer and Cancer rising, you guys are going to experience Mercury's retrograde from Aries back into Pisces from your 10th to your 9th house. For you guys, it's starting in your house of career, your public image, and then it shifts into the 9th of faith, philosophy, and belief. It's possible that if you've got like a work project going or something where you're kind of helping a boss, it hits a bit of a snag. There can be a delay with launching things. Maybe you're reconsidering changing direction with your career. Maybe you're questioning your big picture vision, and you need a little bit of time to reflect, work with a mentor, a teacher. Maybe you need to travel to take time away from work. Maybe you're doing some training or going back to school. One thing I would say is because Mercury is connected to the 12th house, a lot of things that have been hidden are going to become revealed to you. A lot of things that you've been unsure about, or if you've had any doubts, or if you've been feeling called to travel or continue your education. I would be really careful with communication, contracts, as that can be a big theme with your 3rd house as well. And when it retrogrades into the 9th house, avoid booking travel during this period because there can be delays and setbacks, or there can be issues actually going places due to changes at work. I also really recommend reflecting on what it is you truly believe in, because you can have this sense of like refreshed philosophy during this transit. If you're traveling, take a good book with you. Maybe listen to a few inspirational speakers or motivational speakers, or people who can be talking about faith, spirituality type of things, because I feel like that's going to kind of help broaden your mind. And definitely be cautious when it comes to seriously committing to education as well, because there's likely going to be a bit of plans that are going to change, especially if you're doing any training or certifications for work. Good luck, Cancer. We've got Leo and Leo rising. What's up, Leo? You're going to be experiencing Mercury's transit from Aries back into Pisces from your 9th to your 8th house. Well, it begins in your 9th house, which is going to be about travel and exploration, and it'll be moving into your 8th house where the water is deep. I feel like travel or learning can experience some hiccups. There can be some challenges in getting refunds or exchanges on travel. You might be reevaluating how you're going to be able to afford traveling or education. So there can be a reassessment of like loans or being able to kind of get sponsored in some way, to help you go on a trip, or maybe get a higher degree. Mercury is connected to your goals and your friends, as well as your 2nd house of money. So if you have any trips planned with a group of friends, maybe you're paying for it. They're like, hey, I'm good for it. I'll pay you back. Then a friend cancels, and then you're like, oh, well, how am I going to get this covered? Like, how am I going to pay for this? You could see something like that could happen. revisit old debts, you know, deal with intimacy issues head on or emotional baggage by talking to friends, getting some feedback, joining a therapy group, or considering working with a therapist one-on-one. Some things are going to be worth paying for, whether that's traveling, education, or when it comes to your emotional health. Don't rush. My tip is dig into the past gently and don't rush heavy talks. Okay? Good luck. Virgo and Virgo rising, you guys are doing this Mercury retrograde from your 8th back into your 7th house of Pisces. You're ruled by Mercury, so it is you, and it's also connected to your career and your reputation or work. Now, when Mercury starts its retrograde, it's in the 8th house, which is obviously very deep. A lot of it is about your private life. It can be also about other people's money, so think like taxes, debt, loans, your partner's money, child support, spousal support, inheritance. But it can also be about you going through a personal transformation. It's about you recognizing or realizing what you're afraid to tackle or deal with. Could be debt, could be trauma, right? It could be fear of vulnerability. But this is something you are going through personally, Aries, and it's going to retrograde back into your 7th house. So for a lot of you guys, this retrograde, I think, into the 7th house of partnerships is where there could be some money mix-ups or trust issues that are going on in the 8th house. And then it moves into the 7th house where it is possible that you can clear out some of these problems, although I think it's going to be very confusing. There can be a lot of misunderstandings with partners over money or intimacy. There can be a lot of secrets that are being spilled revolving around people's true motives and what they're doing with money or how much they have or what they've spent. My recommendation for you guys is clarify boundaries. Don't assume that they get you, that they understand. Also, don't assume that people are telling you the truth. You need to go back and forth maybe about insurance matters or benefits. Bonuses can also be a theme as well, especially because Mercury deals with your work. So there can be this sense of renegotiating something work-wise. And if you're going through some legal matters where you're trying to get a settlement, you're trying to negotiate a settlement, you're going to see some people that are going to be kind of fishy and they're in and out and not really sure of what they want. So working with a therapist, an astrologer, a lawyer while these retrogrades are in your 7th house can actually be really helpful and give you some clarity in how to kind of keep the peace and also kind of protect your resources. Good luck. I've got Libra and Libra rising. What's up, Libra? You're doing this Mercury retrograde from Aries back into Pisces, from your 7th house into your 6th. So this will be happening in your opposite sign, okay? And I just keep saying this to all my Libra risings, like typically when you have planets in the 7th house or, you know, Mercury even retrograde in the 7th house, like that's other people's shit, right? That's not your stuff. But Venus, your chart ruler, is retrograde there as well. So you actually play a role in this. There's actually something you're rolling back or reassessing throughout this process. Mercury goes in your 7th house. You find that there's a lot of chatter with relationships, with clients. There's a lot of heated conversations, maybe with committed relationships. And then it's dipping back into your 6th. Well, Mercury deals with the subconscious. So things that you've been thinking about that you haven't been saying, dreams you've been having, fears, secrets, and also hidden enemies that are being revealed in your relationships or partnerships or clients or allies. And then the 9th house, which also deals with your belief system, legal matters, travel, philosophy. So I do think that the retrograde really symbolizes that there's been some crossed wires that have been going on. And it could be with your significant other, it could be with a friend. Also, Aries is the self. So there is some sense of you not seeing yourself so clearly or maybe assuming that people get what you're saying or what you mean. And then there's been some conflict or strife. When it dips back into the 6th house, it can be implying that you're having issues maybe in relationships that are impacting your ability to work. So it could be with coworkers, with clients. It could mean that you are having an inner office romantic entanglement. It could also mean that there is some conflict that's coming up in relationships that's actually impacting your health. And so really this is about then working on your boundaries, working on your health and your health routines. Yes, you have to be patient, you know, with daily glitches, but self-care is going to be your anchor. And it's about not overly nurturing or caretaking for other people and being like, I can't fix you. You got to work on you. I'm going to work on me. And then reassessing relationships as Venus comes back into your 7th house and Saturn comes back into your 7th house. Libra risings aren't playing anymore. That's something that I've noticed. That's not just me. I've seen this with a lot of my Libra risings. And I think that this is that opportunity to reassess. Can we work through these problems? You know, do we need to get to the heart of the matter, working with a therapist or a mediator? And also recognizing where maybe you play a role in being too understanding with other people and giving them too many chances. Good luck, Libra. I've got Scorpio and Scorpio rising. Scorpio, you're going to be doing this Mercury retrograde from Aries back into Pisces from your 6th to your 5th house. Honestly, I like this for Scorpio risings. I think that maybe you guys are a little annoyed at first with the retrograde in your 6th house because it isn't a sign that quincunxes you. 6th house is work, okay? Daily life, routine, health, being in the office, dealing with coworkers, chores, all that stuff. But you've got 2 planets that are retrograding into a really lovely house that does trine or aspect your Scorpio placements. So starts in the 6th house of health. Mercury can be about psychological health, financial organization, detoxing, decluttering, also renegotiations and things that deal with partners' money. And then you've got Mercury connected to goals and allies and networks. So what does it mean? Well, some of you guys are changing jobs. Maybe you're changing offices. You're changing, you know, who's working with you and maybe doing your taxes, doing your accounting. Maybe you're doing it a different way this time. And also major changes with health, habits, and work. A lot of you guys are going to have a lot of work coming in with Saturn and Neptune in the 6th house. So knowing that the Mercury retrograde, I think, has been about reassessing your schedule and creating time to be more active, to be, you know, going to the gym or to be making your me time available. Or maybe it's about making more time for dating or being with your kids as it goes into the 5th house of fun and romance. Work or body signals get kind of confusing in the 6th. And then when Mercury gets into the 5th, it's more about creative or romantic plans and reassessing them. Do you hear back from old romantic partners? Maybe. Are you reassessing whether or not you're in love with someone or something? Do you go back to old hobbies? Do you finish up, you know, an old project? Do you pick up maybe a guitar after a while of not playing it? Something creative is going to come through that you love. You might feel like there's some romantic stalls or there's some challenges with children or revolving around children. My recommendation is rest when you're tired, right? Do not force creativity, right? Creativity is not going to work well if it's forced. So if you are restructuring your schedule where you're feeling inspired again to create, play, have fun, date, you're going to be a lot happier. And I think that this is really, for a lot of you guys, also making time to create something that you can share with other people. So don't be overly hard on yourself about not being as productive right now. You have to actually make that time and maybe block out some time in your schedule so that way the inspiration can come back so you can create. Good luck. Take care of your health because the retrogrades are starting in your 6th, guys, okay? Especially anything with the face, inflammation, anything connected to your sinuses, allergies, fevers, that kind of stuff. Watch that. All right, we've got Sag and Sag rising. You guys are going to be experiencing Mercury's retrograde from Aries back into Pisces from your 5th to your 4th house. Obviously, great place to have a retrograde, right? You get some extra time in your 5th house of romance and playtime and joy. Then it's going to come back into your 4th house where I predict for a lot of Sag and Sag risings, it can feel a little heavy, guys, okay? Because it is just ricocheting all over your chart. So just be patient, actually enjoy it while it's in Aries, and then you're going to kind of restructure some things at home when it's in your 4th house Pisces. I think that for some of you guys, you might feel like a fling or a hobby is fizzling out. You know, family talks can get a little murky. You may be revisiting old hobbies, old romantic partners, or old crafts. Home projects can be good, just keep it low key. Some of you guys might be reassessing relationships from the past. So an old partner comes back, maybe you're going back and forth with an existing partner, deciding whether or not you're going to stay together. Do we move in together with the retrogrades in the 4th? Do we decide that, you know, we want to have a kid because the 5th house is children? Obviously, you have another solar eclipse there as well. And I think that, you know, in spite of the retrogrades, Mercury and Venus in the 5th house is great because if you're a single Sag rising, you will meet somebody likely during these transits between now and the summer. And if you're committed, it's going to be about how you can kind of bring the flame back into your existing relationship, create date nights, go out, have fun. And maybe find ways to do that at home, or maybe you are creating a new entertainment space. Maybe you're moving in with a partner. Maybe you guys are painting the walls or decorating or bringing in art. But it will feel a little bit heavier when it's in your 4th house, especially when it comes to home and family responsibility, right? I think that's really going to be the theme. But man, are you guys going to be happy when Saturn and Neptune get into Aries, because you're going to be like, I finally feel like I'm like free of some of these responsibilities, and now I have more playtime. Good luck, guys. Also, Mercury is connected to your 10th house, by the way, not just your 7th. So a lot of you guys are going, I want to give up my day job. I want to be a performer. You know, I want to be a YouTuber. I want to have an Etsy shop. I want to start a business with my kid. I want to get into trading or something. You're going to want to do something that feels like it's new and exciting and fun, but you need to make the space and also deal with the family responsibilities first. Good luck. We've got Capricorn and Capricorn rising. What's up, Capricorn? You're going to be doing this Mercury retrograde from Aries back into Pisces, from your 4th to your 3rd house. So you've been reworking, reassessing, maybe returning home, maybe selling a house, moving. You know, there's something that you've been doing within the home base. And that's because Mercury is connected to your 6th house of schedule and assistance and routine, and the 9th house of travel. So as it goes into your 4th house, from your 4th house, if you've gone back to working at home, or maybe you've been traveling for work, or maybe you're visiting family or family's visiting you, it's then going to go into the 3rd house. So basically, this is then going to be highlighting communication. You can see home delays or parent chats get wonky. You know, you really want to use your words wisely when it comes to dealing with siblings or neighbors. There can be some conflict that you can have with some of these people, especially if you're dealing with a home or family matter. Car issues can happen here as well, needing to have car service. That can definitely pop up within the 3rd or the 4th house. I do think for a lot of you guys, it's going to be about really looking through and fully assessing a home before you buy it, or reading a lease before you buy it. Otherwise, you can have some delays with some of these themes. I do think also just there can be a lot of like feeling very mentally taxed with the retrograde going from your 4th into your 3rd. And it's going to come very close to Saturn. So it's going to be about creating some kind of boundary or having a firm conversation with a family member or a neighbor about, you know, an existing situation at home. For some of you guys, it could be the turning point where you're like, that's it, I am moving. You know, I'm finally moving. And the retrograde is about that whole process of kind of getting from point A to point B. But I do think for a lot of you guys, it's going to be also about how you're kind of dealing with and handling family issues, because Mars is in Cancer in your 7th. So you have to air out some of these issues to be able to really make it possible for you to kind of get to your next space. Okay. Good luck, Capricorn. We've got Aquarius and Aquarius rising. You guys are going to do Mercury retrograde from Aries in your 3rd house to Pisces in your 2nd house. Mercury likes being in the 3rd house, okay? It doesn't like being retrograde, but it likes being in the 3rd house. So at least it's in a place where it can really focus on self-expression, communication, ideas, and I think finding its voice. And when it goes into the 2nd house, yes, it's a little confusing, but this is really about the house of worth. This is about material goods, spending power, and resources. So I think that with this retrograde, you know, this is all about like feeling a little mentally overloaded, and maybe there's some tech fails, some car issues, some miscommunications, delays with short distance travel. And then you're going to see that it's going to be somehow connected to your cash flow or something that's impacting your self-esteem. If you're a writer, if you're a public speaker, if you're learning something, there's a lot of tying either what you're investing personally into that or your self-esteem into what you have to say. I think that with the connection to the 5th house with Mercury, it's about creative writing or speaking to your children about money, or romantic partners about how you feel. It could also mean that there is some negotiation going on where you have to review contracts or maybe tax documents or insurance documents. Car insurance can also change. We can see that there can be some shifts revolving around coverage, and it might be a little bit more costly for some people, obviously, hopefully not. And I would just say triple check all of your receipts. Look at all of the emails and texts that you send. Value yourself beyond the chaos, right? And really invest yourself in something that you want to write or something that you have to say, because I think that that's really important. And redefining maybe what's yours versus what's other people's, and learning to say that's not my responsibility, or I can't keep bailing you out. You know, that might also be a theme that's going to come up when it comes to finances and relationships. Good luck. And for Pisces and Pisces risings, the Mercury retrograde starts in Aries in your second house and it moves into Pisces in your first house. So this is personal, very personal for you and Aries. Both of you guys have retrogrades in your first house of the body and appearance. But for you, it's starting in your house of money, self-values, and worth. And then it's going to be dropping into the first house of the self. Obviously, Mercury is connected to your emotions, the past, home, and family, and also relationships and partnerships. Maybe relationships with professional partners, Virgo, or coworkers, or with clients, or with spouses. And anytime planets are in the first house, it's more about you. And so Mercury, when it gets into the first house, is I think. But when it's in the second house, it's I am, or my value, or I have. So there's a lot of reassessing money stuff that's going to be going on. And obviously it's touching on all these kind of very personal placements in the first house where I think you're redefining your personal style. You're reworking something about your budget and your finances and what you value. So obviously we can see some budget issues. And also you need to be asking yourself, what am I worth, right? These vibes are going to be coming on very early. Then you're going to be seeing as it moves into the first house, there's like a full on identity rethink. Maybe it's, well, who am I if I'm not married? Or who am I if I'm not in a relationship? Or what am I doing for myself opposed to what I'm doing for other people? And how can I reinvest in myself? What's going to make me feel good? What can I build? What can I do? What can I create? With all these planets ultimately moving into the second house of Aries, especially knowing that, Neptune will be there soon. So you're going to be dreaming of a new way to redefine yourself. And it's going to be based off of how you're making your own money, or you're making money in a creative or a spiritual way. All of this playing off of your other chart ruler, Jupiter, I think is interesting because it's pushing you to make some kind of break or change with the past, or it's trying to get you to reassess your money. So that way you feel like you can travel or move more freely or figure out where it is that you want to land. But it will be a little confusing for you guys. So definitely take a little bit more time, my Pisces and my Aries placements, because I think you guys need to go through the full process until the end of April. And I feel like this is all about trusting your gut and really rewriting your own personal story, especially when it comes to your relationship to money or your resources. Okay? All right, well, there you have it. That is part 2 of the Mercury retrograde in the signs of Aries and Pisces. I know it's going to be a wild ride, guys, because there's so much that is just jam-packed into this and next month. But this is all about realigning with your personal truth and identity. So I'd love to hear from you guys. Drop your rising sign in the comment section below. Let me know how you're doing. How are you guys planning for this? How are you feeling through some of these changes? You're welcome to come back and comment on this as we go through this the next couple of weeks. Please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. If you're already subscribed, make sure you're subscribed down there. Click the description below if you guys want all of the dates and the degrees. I'll have that for you. And definitely, hit that bell if you want more cosmic insights as we go through the transits for the next few weeks. I hope that's helpful. I'll catch you guys all on the other side. Until next time, take care.